of the single biggest influences to me as a musician.
Yeah.
And finally getting to meet him was probably one of the worst experiences of my life.
Oh man, dude.
It was a very unpleasant experience meeting him, and I just decided, at that point, this is when we were recording. I think it was Wisdom. I think it was when I first met him, either Wisdom or Let That Crush. Anyways, when I first met Al, who was my musical hero.
Yeah.
To be frank, I mean, he was a total dick.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I am never going to be like that to my fans. If somebody, the thing is I think what happens to artists is they lose perspective of why they're there.
Right.
The reason in 10 days, I get to go and get into tour bus and go around the country and be able to play music for a month and a half is not because of me, really. I mean, I wrote this stuff, but it's because of the fans, the people who support it, the people who go to the shows and pay for it, to see the shows, the people who buy the T-shirts, those things. I mean, I could write the best record in the world, which, some people say we've done. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree, but
right.
Go write the best record in the world and say Super Cool Nothing. And I mean, if nobody knows about it, nobody buys it. What does it matter? It doesn't matter for anything except I wrote this record. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's something that we've carried up throughout forever. It's just that, you know what? In this band, and I've said this with guys who've come out and played with us. In this band, we don't treat any staff and venues poorly. Unless they treat us poorly first, of course.
Right.
But we don't go in, we don't act like rock stars. I've always cleaned up after myself in the studios.
Mm-hmm.
And I started off in studios, working in studios, and I know how it is to be on the side of being a runner and having people treat you poorly and stuff like that. And I never ever wanted to be like that to anybody, just because I feel like at the end of the day, we're all people. And unless you disrespect me, I'm not going to disrespect you. I'm going to start off with 100% respect and treat you like a person. And scale back from there accordingly.
Yeah.
But I kind of do that with you're right. I'm totally accessible. I mean, at shows even, I'm like, half the time I don't like being inside the club, all day. So I'll be standing out in front. People will just come up and be like, "Holy shit, what are you doing?" Most of the time, you'd never see an artist at all until they come on stage, and then after that, you see them ducking, out the backstage to get into their bus or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck that. I'm going to go walk around and talk to people and thank them, I mean,
yeah.
Thank you, it's like, thanks for, supporting us. I mean, that's really what it's about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny, I was just talking to Jason, our drummer, about that last week in Seattle, and I was like, we were talking about bands, and it's funny how always the local bands that haven't gone out and toured very much, they're usually the ones that have the most attitudes.
Yeah.
And, the guys who've been around for a long time, especially in this sort of mid-level that we're in,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're in Skinny Puppy or Ministry or whatever, I mean, you've done a lot more, and maybe there's some attitude that you have there, or at least some expectation, whatever. But I mean, if you've been around in our scene that we're in, which is sort of, we're dubbing the MIDI ghetto, thanks to Jared again. If you have an attitude problem, you're just an idiot.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason for you to have an ego,
Yeah.
I mean, we're playing to 200 kids a night. We're barely a speck of sand on the beach of anything, So I think you have to be that way. You have to think that way. And one of the things that Jason commented on was that, he went out and played with Front 242 on this one tour, and those guys were super cool. They were just super nice to everybody,
yeah.
thankful, and they appreciated what they had. And I mean, I think that most people who are doing this should appreciate it. I mean, anybody who says that they're not lucky to be doing it's lying.
Yeah.
Lucky to be even at the level that we're doing it at. We're fucking so lucky. I mean, I'm standing here in Portland right now, and I mean, how many musicians are here that would give their fucking left leg to be able to go out on a 45-foot Prevost and go tour around Canada and America for, and the United States for 6 weeks. I mean, a ton of them would. And there's only, 3 or 4 bands that would ever get to do that out of Portland. So, I mean, I feel blessed just to be able to do it on the level we do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a perspective that we don't ever lose,
Right.
And, since the fact, I want to just jump back for 1 second. The circumstances in which I met Al were sort of strange, but, Al's not a bad guy. And
right.
Again, he's still, an amazing artist. So I don't want to seem like I'm talking trash about him, because I'm not.
Do you think your age brings that perspective as well, and the age that you've been in the business and your age in itself? I tend to find that your younger bands tend to have the more attitude, but the bands that I talk to have been around more, have seen more, and are comprised of older people. Tend not to say you're old, but you know what I'm saying, more experience. They tend to have a more down to earth attitude towards this business.
Well, I think so. I mean, I think you have to experience things in order to get to that place, maybe. I mean, I was kind of lucky in the beginning because my first experience really with anything outside of my bedroom was going to Chicago Tracks and recording a record with David Ogilvy and Fluffy. So, you know, I pretty much got like exposed very quickly to like the professional side of it. I didn't really have to like work my way up through a local scene or anything like that.
Right.
So, you know, I see it when we go out on tour every time. It's the local bands who haven't gotten to play outside of their state. Those guys have huge egos if they've attained any amount of local success. And it's comedic, you know. It's sort of like, wow, you know, these guys go like 100 miles outside of your city, play a show, and when there's 5 people that show up, and you've just driven 12 hours, and the food that you get is a piece of shitty pizza, and you've got no money, and your girlfriend's calling and saying she's going to throw your shit outside unless you send her money for the phone bill, and you just got a flat tire in the van, and you have to call your mom to borrow money to pay for it, that your ego's going to go out the window.
Yeah.
You know, that's a reality slap.
Yeah.
But when you're a local band and you just have to drive down the street to pick up your gear and everybody loves you and it's a big party, you know, sure, you're going to have your little ego. But yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I think that the more you experience on this level, the more humble you kind of become, just because you have to, you know.
Yeah, yeah. You know, speaking of meeting our idols and stuff, you know, I met Chris Conley when I was younger, and he was a huge influence on me. You know, I was just in love with Chris's voice and in love with what he did. You know, you got to meet Al. Well, how important do you think that people get to meet the people that entertain them and provide them with the escape that they need? Is that something that you think is important and is one of the reasons that you put yourself out there so much?
That's probably subjective. I mean, I'm not sure how important it is to people. I mean, I think in a way, it's another element of sort of experiencing the band that you have a like for. I mean, you know, I guess to sort of try and relate with the question, I went and saw Sia the other night here in Portland, who I just love her. You know, if you don't know who she is, she sang with 07 for a long time. She's a singer from Australia. She's totally amazing. And I mean, we went to the show. I paid for the show, and I didn't get to meet her, but we were close enough that we got to sort of experience her personality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think if you're not hiding behind a wall as a performer, if you're kind of like exposing yourself on some level, then it's probably enough, you know. But I think there's people who always want more anyways. I mean, we'll play shows and, like, I know we have fans there, but, like, they won't even say hi or, you know, like, I'll see people in the audience. We'll play the show and somebody will be singing the lyrics. And then after the show, we walk out to the merch booth and they just, like, walk by us. It's probably because they're, like, nervous to talk to us or whatever. I don't know. But, you know, so I think it's probably more important for some people than others.
Yeah. And I think part of that, too, the reason they walk by is because we've been trained to think that artists don't have the time of day for us because we see it so often. You know, you don't want to waste their time or make them feel like, you know, you want too much from them.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's... So one thing that we talk about a lot with 16 Volt, too, is, like, you know, we have this... It's kind of a funny thing that we've talked about on tour a lot because it comes up a lot. We'll get, like, an email from somebody saying, like, come play Ohio. Or, like, hey, we noticed you guys aren't playing, you know, some city somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
Come play here. And it is so... You can't just do that, you know, but... Right. There's this idea that we can just sort of jump in the van and go play somewhere. I mean, we've been working on this tour we're about to do for 6 months.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like literally on the phone, on the computer at the same time last night from like 6 o'clock until 2:30 in the morning without any break at all. Like just cranking all night, you know, trying to get stuff done. It's just, and I'm not the only one doing it. There's like every person on the tour is like working their ass off right now. It's a shit ton of work. And, you know, you can't just jump in the van and go play, you know, Potatoton, Idaho. It's just not, it doesn't work. But at the same time, it's not really the fans' responsibility to know that or to even care. You know, at the end of the day, you know, music is there for them to, like, you know, give them joy or whatever it is they get out of it. And the same with a performance or a show, you know, it's supposed to be an event. You know, they shouldn't be, it's not their responsibility to bear the burden of what it takes to get the show there and to get it done. Right. So, you know, I guess I've kind of ranted about this, but